physical. We very much believe in physical. A lot of the problems that we want to solve as teams are done face-to-face in brainstorming. Yes, it does work online, but not as well as in person. And also, more importantly, those initial team connections where trust is built is incredibly important to have to take place in physical locations. So if you win our startup investment competition, we will invite you or some of your team to be with us as we help you with the implementation of our investment and what we agree on. So now I'm going to go straight into the panel. Firstly, thank you to this panel for joining. And for everyone that's joining here today, you were probably expecting to see the wonderful Barry Heppenstall. Unfortunately, Barry's not well. I've worked together with Gijs de Trey van Haften, and yes, I can pronounce his name correctly. He is in previous accelerators. He's been successfully investing for people like Plug and Play. He's also worked with us on the Kickstart Accelerator in Switzerland, and he's a well-known expert in his field in this, and he's very kindly agreed to support us. He's actually one of the first members of our Council of Experts. So welcome, Gijs, and thank you for stepping in at such short notice. Now we're going to go on to the panel, and what I'm going to do first is ask them to each introduce themselves and with a brief description about their field of expertise, what they're advising in or what they're investing in. We're going to start with Carolina. Carolina, welcome. Where are you? And tell us about you and Sangha.
I'm in the Swiss mountains, as you can see a little bit. And basically, Sangha is a community of investors that want to invest in early stage to do tech for good. So our focus is really trying to find the technologies that can support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to try to change and have exponential impact, because technology allows us to go faster.
Awesome. Can you say a little bit more about who you're working with and what you're...
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So the co-founder of Sangha is actually Bill Tai, who was like the seed investor of companies like Zoom that enabled this panel, and like Twitter, Treasure Data, and many others like Canva, Wish, like you name it. So he's actually helping us a lot with this. And then we collaborate a lot with Extreme Tech Challenge as well, which is really competition on tech for good. So that's where like we work together with EdenBase as well on all the tech deal flow and yeah, through all the people in the ecosystem.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Well, if he's involved, it's going to be definitely one to watch. Sangha, definitely. We're very interested in it. Dinesh, would you mind introducing yourself, giving us a little bit of background and your area of interest as well?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to hear. I'm a huge fan of you, as you know, and Daniel. And I think my background is I'm a serial entrepreneur with a hat of, well, a lot of hats. I love to write, and I wrote a couple of books, but the last one was about 4-hour revolution, fourth industrial revolution, which is one of my areas of expertise, where I build actually the strategy for a couple of countries, especially in Malaysia, for the concept of Malaysia 5.0. And as well as an entrepreneur, I've been advising a lot of startups and as well investing in some of them. I'm focused on the areas of, well, fourth industrial revolution, so frontier technologies, AI, blockchain, and any technology that is cutting edge. And I'm very focused right now in smart cities.
And if any one of you want to have a look at some of Dinesh's very interesting interviews, he's interviewed robots, and amazing people. His YouTube channel has had something like 4 million views. It's definitely opened my eyes in some things that I haven't thought were possible before. So that's fantastic content as well. Thank you for joining us, Dinesh. Gijs, welcome. I gave you a bit of an introduction before, but please do a better job and introduce yourself. Firstly, where are you? And yeah, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me as well, Eric. Pleasure to be here. I'm currently in Amsterdam. As you mentioned, my background is early stage investing in San Francisco, and I was focused there on insurtech, fintech, and enterprise investments. And recently as well, I set up my own concept in London. And before that, as you mentioned, we worked together very well in Zurich to help set up the accelerator program over there, where I was advising on the fintech side of things. And before that, I spent about 5 years in investment banking, which I try not to talk about, but they were very formative years. I'm also really passionate about sustainability as well. And as we've spoken about many times in the past, very optimistic about what frontier technology can bring to the future of the planet.
And to my mind, if I remember, I think you were the first investment banker when we first met who actually read the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper and chose to try and understand it, which I loved. It was a great start, I have to say. That's a great way of starting a conversation. More investment bankers should read it as well. I think it may blow their minds. Daniel, welcome. I've come to you last in this lineup because obviously we need to welcome our guests first, but also because I'd like you to introduce yourself, but also, if you wouldn't mind, sharing with us and the audience as well, a little bit more around the concept of EdenBase. So first yourself, and
thanks,
then
Eric.
Then EdenBase.
Oh, thank you, Eric. And you didn't ask where I was. I'm in the city at the moment, in an office here, which is very nice to be out. So my background is almost 30 years in disruptive technology. Like Hayes, starting in banking, in the derivative trading technology side, which was the first time that they'd computerized parts of the financial system, and it innovated the entire industry. I spent many years developing a tech that became a global tech for innovating in the entertainment and gaming space, and then learnt about the blockchain in 2016, having really focused only on disruption. And it made me understand that getting disruption is really about market adoption. And with all this experience, we came up with this thesis in 2016 about how you create good disruption with frontier technologies. And to me, frontier technologies are the likes of AI, blockchain, 5G, AR, VR. And these transformative technologies that are going to improve productivity enormously over the next decades. And it might be that we look at this as a very future tech, but the latest analysis by people like McKinsey and Deloitte actually show that it's pretty much tomorrow. McKinsey say by 2030, AI, just that one element of frontier technologies, could replace 30% of the entire worked hours, which is 1 billion people. And Deloitte have said that by 2030, it could be an economy the size, or a market the size of China. I mean, these are very big numbers, and they're very close. So the thesis really is to take early stage companies with great tech and make them aware of the technologies and start integrating them into them. And, to talk about our relationship, when I met you, I realized that the entire ecosystem around that accelerates that and makes it so much better than doing it in any other way. And I just feel the combination of ecosystem plus a fund plus this technology integration process is the way to do this.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, I agree, because we've joined and we've launched, which is great, and the competition is a good way of starting this. But I've noticed that you firmly believe in investing with to have obviously super growth, but you also use the words sustainable super growth and with impact. And so with that, I'm going to go back to Carolina and ask her a little bit more. So when you guys, you and Bill were hanging out and you were just, okay, let's do this, create this incredible new fund. I mean, he is a rock star investor, of course, and has some incredible super growth businesses. What is it, the kind of business that you're going to be, or enterprise that you will be looking to invest in Sangha that also attracted Bill and others like him?
Well, the first thing that attracted Bill's attention was the fact that he had a tech competition, and more businesses were really purpose linked, like they were trying to solve a problem. It was just not the technology itself that they were using, but as well the purpose they had behind. So there's a whole new area where we have great technologies, we have a lot of problems. What if we empower the fact that both things go together, so you have sustainable like businesses that have revenues and that can grow and expand and at the same time do good. So an example of a company we've invested in is Microgen Biotech, which is actually a bacteria to remove the aluminium that we have on rice. So we're eating like a lot
Yeah,
of
we
like
are.
bad things. So any kind of solution that's like a good example of a technology being used for a good purpose and for good health. Another example as well, for example, has been Tommy, which is an educational platform that has both sort of business models. One is online, where it's a marketplace for teachers to upload classes and share classes between them and have their own marketplace. But at the same time, it has a small device that is like a portable computer. And the idea is that teachers can actually download the classes when they have internet, but then go to remote areas where kids don't have access to internet and just project and have a interactive board where they can see technology, interact with technology, and have like simplified classes as well. So there's like a lot of ways where technology can be used on,
I mean, that's a
different use
huge
cases.
range, isn't it? When you think about it, you've spoken about the agri-tech, you put ed tech, but is the common theme all helping solve some of the SDGs? Is that it?
Yes,
And then the question
always with the technology aspect.
with the
Because
technology
we really
aspect.
think technology can escalate way faster. Like you want scalability, we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, that's so true. We don't have a lot of time. That's a very good point. Dinesh, I'm going to come to you now, if that's okay, because you wrote this book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution: Reinventing a Nation. Daniel believes, by the way, it's more than a fourth industrial revolution. He considers it a cognitive revolution. You guys, you really, really need to have a great debate, because I think the two of you would be amazing to put into a debate. Perhaps that's something, Gigi, we will do later. We'll get these two titans to debate. But I want to ask you a different question at this moment, Dinesh, because I mean, you interviewed one of the most sentient robots that exists, right? Can I ask you a little bit about that? What was it like, and then you flow that into what we're doing here, right? Which is about productivity, investing into the productivity gains that Frontier can deliver. What was the experience like doing that interview? And then also, what did it make you feel? What did it make you think about the opportunities of Frontier technology?
Yeah, so I think you mentioned Ida. Robot that is one of the first AI artists, well, I guess the first world AI robot, but as well creative painter and artist. And actually, for everyone here in the call, is going to have the entire design museum of UK, of London, so it's the first, I think, one of the first things that you have an entire robot controlling one of the best museums in the world and bigger. So the experience was great because I worked previously I've been working with Ben Gorsel and as well with Sophia the Robot, which I have a very good relationship with David Anderson, that is the founder. So it's interesting to compare Sophia the Robot and Ida, because so Sophia, of course, is a cutting edge robot, and probably these are the most advanced robots in the world. They're not created by Militar or by massive corporations, because both of them are quite independent. But Ida is particularly interesting because it was created by an art, I would say he's a kind of an out-of-the-box art collector, or actually art manager, because he works in selling Picassos and stuff like that. So, and he created it as a kind of an interaction in terms of looking at history of art, history of ideas, and then he put some of the top universities in the world, Oxford in particular, where he's based, and a lot of other departments to build the robot. So this is, of course, a work of 30 people, but at the same time, like you ask, when I interact with Ida, actually I did a bit of a naughty stuff that I prepared the interview, of course, but I only sent the questions 1 hour before. So they didn't have a lot of time to prepare, because I want to understand how much I could interact real. And I know it's really blown my mind, because of course it's a bit intimidating being in a room with the robot and all the wires and stuff like that. But at a certain point, when I start speaking with the robot, I start talking normally. I almost forgot that I was in front of a robot, as well because of the interface and the design. But that just made me think. Actually, I'm writing a new essay about precisely AI, imagination, and self-destruction humanity. And I think it made me rethink all of these things, like you mentioned before, Eric, in terms of 4AR, but as well Society 5.0, and the way we can program technology. So that's, I think, answers to that point. So this is actually happening. It's not in 5 years, it's now. And as well, the fact that, for instance, I'm actually collecting some work of IDA right now myself. What is interesting is that our work, for instance, cannot be patented. I don't know if you know, from an AI perspective or from a patent perspective, you cannot patent a robot. There's no international patents for this. So we are already seeing a big disruption in anything we're seeing right now. But at the same time, the challenge and the opportunities are massive. But I think the challenge is that all of us here in this call, and I think the companies listening to us, we understand what you're talking about, but the rest of the world has no clue. So I think it's kind of how we bridge these United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, but as well, we can create something that this is going to evolve, almost like Harari said, to create superhumans, which we are doing right now as we speak. But the point is that I was looking at an interview with Lex Friedman with Mark Tegmark, and the point is that at the moment, what it can do with AI, disrupt the entire world economy and the world stuff. So is how we put this growth of companies that actually can create all of these things, but not getting out of focus of our humanity, because in the end of the day, they are part of our evolution. So I don't want to go too out of scope, but that's my notes.
Thank you. I mean, it's great because it will help inform some of the kind of opportunities that the people on this call are interested in building and build. And so I would recommend trying to consume some of your content, because it'll certainly give you a direction of travel for humanity. Gijs, in a more practical level, after having been involved with and seen quite a lot of this type of activity and then investing, what do investors look for in tech investments? I mean, it's a really simple question with a series of complex answers, but from your experience, what should people on this call think that have applied to the competition be thinking about, and what are investors looking for in tech investments?
Yeah, you're right. It's a good and it's a very broad question. And I think to kind of really think about it for people on the call, it's probably about, what makes a venture capital investment versus just, standard investment. And I think, next down the stack, if you compare to private equity, for example, with most venture capital funds, each investment has to be able to return the fund, which means that that investment alone needs to be able to repay what the limited partners have paid into the fund. So to build on to what Carolina was saying, is each business that a fund invests in has to be able to grow very quickly. It either needs to have some level of virality or very strong traction and momentum to really demonstrate that it could grow to be that scale. And I think if you then break it down into some elements which are typically focused on, aside from, team, product, market, I think the specifics of those things are things like customer centricity. So, do they really understand who their core customer is? Are they able to increase adoption and engagement of that core customer to ultimately deliver a flywheel of interaction, engagement, and further proliferation of new customers, rather than being distracted by a whole array of different opportunities? And I guess linked to that is the team, of course, needs to be a good team, but do they have a level of unique insight into the market, either from within the industry or outside of the industry, which allows them to take a disruptive or transformative approach, such that they're a product first company rather than a company first company? And by that, I mean, a lot of people will found a company and then find a purpose or a problem to chase. Whereas if you start from the problem statement and the product, a very good example of that is Stripe, creating an amazing payments engine, focus on developers, make it easy for them to use and integrate, and it will proliferate through the technological world. And I think one other point to mention on the team, I think is leadership qualities of the founding team or the founder, because fundamentally you can have a good team, but if you're not able to bring customers by being charismatic or being good at sales, or more importantly, perhaps bring engineers or attract the best talent, then you're not necessarily going to be able to keep growing at that same level of speed. So I think I would focus on kind of those key areas. There's a whole host of other things.
Yeah, but that's a great starting point for people on the call to think about. Daniel, I wanted to ask you a little bit about moonshots. But before we go to the moonshots, I just wanted to say for those on the audience, I haven't met many people who actually conceived of $1 trillion business opportunity. And Daniel did with the Atari token project. He created that conceived that notion of an entirely new economy that exists with the Atari token, alternative additional economy that independent people were pointing to, saying this is a potential $1 trillion opportunity. So that feels like a moonshot to me. I mean, it really felt quite a bold thing. What is our approach at EdenBase to that? Do we want unreasonable entrepreneurs who really are shooting for the stars? Or are we also interested in people that take an existing business and transform it to make it much better using AI? Or is it both?
Well, it's an excellent question. And, I want to carry on a little bit from what Hayes and Gina said on that, which is, what are you looking for? You're looking for products that can scale very well and that solve a problem. Those are very important things. I rate teams incredibly highly as well. I mean, really highly, because I think all products have problems, and if the team is strong, then they can get through it. And I've seen so many teams that haven't been strong, but with a great product, not do that. So that's important. The other thing I'm really keen on is sort of, I don't like the word, but optionality. My history of disruption is, if you force somebody to do something, even if it's better for them, they don't really want to do it. But if you allow them to do it, then they want to do it. And that goes back to the sort of thesis we have, which is, we're building on tech that already exists, that already people are using, and we're adding these frontier technologies as something you can use if you want to, and they will increase your productivity. And that I think smooths the adoption. In terms of the moonshot ideas, yes, moonshots are really fascinating. And, one of the things that you and I have, one of the latest areas that we've been looking at is how to improve our looking for moonshots rather than becoming a bit echo chambery. And we are dedicating a lot of space and a lot of time to companies that we're not quite sure about, and really allowing them to take advantage of all the skills we have. We might not fund them on day one because we're not as confident about their progression as some of the others, but we're going to enable them to take part of that ecosystem. And the Atari token was very similar, was a very good thesis for this, or a test of the thesis, which is we were taking standard casual gaming software, and the Atari token was made up of 4 founders, me, a bunch of gaming guys, an Ethereum founder, and the Atari token, the Atari company, which provided the brand. But we were taking technology that already existed, that millions of people were playing, and we just allowed them to do more with it. And we were able to allow them to do more because the blockchain did things for games that you couldn't do before. And that optionality created the future of work. And, the vision of the project is that people can work in the virtual world exactly the same way as they can in the physical world. But again, it's an option. They can do it, they don't have to do it. But it also improved the economics by 100x for game developers. So a game developer with 100,000 users, or even 1 million or 2 million users, is barely profitable. But using these sort of techniques that were available, a game of 70,000 users was profitable. And that changes it. And the final thing I'd like to say on moonshots that I'm really keen on, and I think frontier technologies allow and ecosystems allow, is something called the swarm effect. And it's something we sort of covered in the Atari project, which is, if you take these enormous companies like Tencent, which have 60% of market share in China, but you take everybody else and add them together, they can start competing like for like. So these are the things that I think really allow moonshots. But it's also finally something to do with ecosystems. I had an admission I made to you, which was I'd been to level 39 a few times for events, but I'd never actually been into level 39 until you took me in this year. And there was something about walking into the space that made me feel I can do anything in this space. Yeah. I can succeed.
It's not an accident, by the way.
It was the way. I know it wasn't. But it's the way it's laid out. It's the way you walk in. It's even the view. And if people feel they can do anything, then they can do anything. So I think those are the key things from moonshots.
Well, we're big fans still of level 39, and we wish them even continued success. I think we're going to be hosting an event or two there, which would be terrific to do. But carrying that, I want to ask you a bit more about the value of impact investing and sustainability, because until now it has been, maybe only recently it's on the attention of every CEO of every Fortune 500 companies with ESGs and SDGs. But in our own humble way here, we also, in the startup world, we also see this. So for example, we saw a company that was thinking about applying, but wasn't sure if they qualified, and they were a building supplies company, right? They're delivering building supplies all over the place. Now, it takes them, firstly, a long time to figure out the route because they've got hundreds and hundreds of deliveries. But secondly, that's just not efficient. If they implemented AI, they didn't know how, but if they implemented AI, just the route would be for the deliveries would be optimized, saving them 20% fuel, wear and tear, saving the environment. Is that an impact investment just because it's an efficiency investment?
Yes, it's funny actually, because one of the investments we're looking at now is precisely that. It's optimizing a supply chain for healthcare, because there's so many inefficiencies that the fact that you actually have like a software, if you want, or like an AI algorithm solving all of those inefficiencies and connecting everybody, the amount of wasted time and resources, it's already, you could play that as or even, for example, even if another one that we're looking is again another supply chain disruption, in the sense that maybe your neighbor downstairs, you have the shop here and the neighbor upstairs wants to buy a computer but will go and order it on Amazon. Whether if you were plugged into the network and you could just sell it, maybe you're the most competitive price, but they will just not know that you're wanting to buy. So we definitely need to play on this, because there's a lot of inefficiencies that end up being like a thing being shipped left, right, and center, so it goes somewhere when maybe it was just next door, but it's just not plugged into the network. So I think we need to solve these inefficiencies, definitely.
Which is one huge aspect of it. Actually, Daniel, if I just quickly come back to you, because somebody was asking the question. Let's say somebody is using one of the frontier technologies. Does that mean they're disqualified from being part of EdenBase or the competition?
No, not at all. I mean, these are very discrete. I mean, they very well together. I mean, AI and blockchain. I have a whole theory about blockchain being a transient technology to AI. But there are a lot of blockchain companies out there which are not yet using AI. So yes, of course, they're part of this. And one of the things that we obviously know, and blockchain is a very obvious example. You could choose the wrong blockchain. There are already 6 or 7 of them that are premier. So yes, for us to be able to help those companies grow quickly is really important.
All right, thanks. Gigi, how are we doing for time? I have a bunch more questions, but I just wanted to firstly say, are we getting any questions from the audience?
No, we haven't received any questions in the Q&A from the audience. You have a few more minutes, including the Q&A from the audience, but since we haven't had anything, I think you can continue with your questions. But I just wanted to answer a common thing we've been getting. So after the panel, we have the pitch practice where 4 companies will pitch to get feedback from this amazing panel of judges. And after the pitches, if you have any EdenBase specific questions, we are going to continue this webinar for 15-20 more minutes for a Q&A session about EdenBase and the competition. But right now, we'd really encourage you to ask any questions in the Q&A for our panel.
That's great. Thank you. As we then move towards the timing for the pitches, and just to say that this is a way of us, EdenBase, we're doing this to introduce ourselves really, and also to encourage more people to join the competition. It's this feedback from our panel isn't part of the formal judging. That takes place within the competition. So don't forget to apply for the competition. But it's a great chance to get feedback from the judges. And, the more practice you get in answering questions, the better. So Dinesh, back to you quickly. If you were going to tip some of our audience who are thinking about implementing solutions in a particular field, are there any particular industries that would most benefit, you think, or that you really like from frontier technologies?
Well, I think all the industries are going to be disrupted, and actually there's massive opportunities in all sectors. I have some passions of my own, of course, but I would suggest that I think everyone listening to us, and especially the startups, I don't have doubt. I mean, COVID just highlighted this, that everyone right now, most of the companies that are digital prepared can grow tenfold. And I think that's where I think a lot of moonshots can happen and is happening. Look at Zoom and a lot of others, but as well, a lot of practical things that have been created. But I would suggest that definitely the areas that are going to be more sensitive and growing fast. So we still have like mainstream areas like digital that are still, we're still in early days. People forget that. Most of the AI related projects are still very incipient. But I would say definitely healthcare and wellness, which is a very big thing. And I'm particularly passionate about that. And as well, as I mentioned before, I'm very into smart cities because I think anything related with smart cities, any city is becoming a smart city. And of course, Level 49 that you created, Eric, is actually one of the first smart cities, at least the area of Canary Wharf, the cognizant city that is actually Level 49 was actually one of the first ambassadors. So I think that this kind of technologies, I think, are the ones that have more capacity to scale, because it's easier to, let's say, if you work in an accelerated part of a smart city, you can implement a lot of different technologies and you can immediately have case studies, especially big, fast growing companies. And as well, actually big, fast growing cities, actually, the companies can be small, because at the moment we're seeing small startups with 10, 20 people. If they are in the right place, with the right ecosystem, they can become billion-dollar companies. And I think, of course, Level 49 proved that. But I believe that we're still very early stage on that. And very important thing, I think, for everyone listening to us, of course, we are in London, which independent of all the craziness around COVID, is still the #1 city in the world in terms of power city. It's been losing some rankings in other areas, but it's still leveraging a lot of things. But you have hundreds of thousands of cities around the world that need all of this. So you can scale in Africa, you can scale in Middle East, you can scale in Asia, Latin America. And I think these people, I think we forget that. For instance, I'm working a project in Brazil, just as an example, that is in Minas Gerais. That is and I know Brazil is a lot of stress right now, but they created an entire smart city ecosystem where actually they're creating a and Daniel mentioned blockchain ecosystems, which is one of my passions. They created an entire system for all the taxi drivers of the city and the state to be on blockchain. So all of them are rewarded through common token and using blockchain certification to create solutions and self-driven actually vehicles that are working. So you have the most amazing things happening all over the world, but I think these areas is the ones they highlight, especially because I'm more involved. But of course, healthcare and wellness is a massive industry, because everyone right now needs to think about their wellness, whatever we want it or not. We are all grounded at home, and of course this will have a lot of consequences for all of us.
And I know you advise governments and cities on their strategies as well, which is fascinating. And if anybody's interested in learning more, where can they get in touch with you, by the way?
Well, I think Twitter is one of my channels. I'm all over Twitter. So it's my name at Dinis Guarda, but you can check my YouTube channel and of course my LinkedIn as well. Although I don't answer a lot, but I'm sure for you guys are the ones here, I'll find a way.
Good man, thank you.
Actually, on that note, I would like to point out that Nikki has been great at sharing all these links to everything that our panelists have been sharing. You can find the projects they're working on, their LinkedIn links on the chat if you look at it. Awesome.
So time for one more question, or do you want to go to the pitches?
I think we can have one last question.
All right, Hayes, this one for you then. You know, you've been investing and seeing this kind of thing both in the US, you know, as well as UK and continental Europe. Would you say there's a difference? I mean, can a high potential startup succeed just as well in places like EdenBase as they could do in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think Silicon Valley is really kind of at its maturity and perhaps kind of peaking beyond. And by that, I mean, 80% of the venture capital money in the world is still in the US and 80% of that is still on the West Coast. And startups are slightly starting to leave because, amongst other things, living costs are too high. But I think in terms of ability to scale rapidly, the US is still, one huge market of 300 plus million people, which, although you have different federal regulations and preferences, it's more similar than if you try and combine Europe, the EU and the UK now into one collective market. I think a lot of startups, where they've struggled is to try and too quickly expand across national, geopolitical, and purely logistical challenges to try and scale too quickly. So I think in certain areas, fintech and insurtech being one of them, where you're able to rapidly scale through narrow and niche channels, you certainly can get to a very rapid scale, and you can get to a stage whereby you're then able to replicate that across different countries and jurisdictions. I think that, as I mentioned, that the problem is often trying to scale that far too quickly.
Okay, well, I mean, we are delighted that you've kindly agreed to be one of the first members of our Council of Experts from EdenBase. So we're going to be tapping into your knowledge quite a lot, I'm afraid. But thank you ever so much to all of our panelists for joining. Carolina, no pressure. You have the entire future of the planet on your investing strategy. So you don't get that one wrong, please. And Dinesh, thank you also so much for your insight. We continue to watch your content with great interest, and if I hint that I'm using some of what you read and research to influence our investing thesis, I wouldn't be too far off there. So I think others could do well to follow the same. And Daniel, thank you for making it happen. Somebody creates the leadership behind all of this, and I want to thank Daniel for encouraging us to do all of this. So Nikki and Gigi, you both made us look amazing today. Thank you very much, the panel, and we're very grateful. So back to you, and what happens now?
Yes, definitely. We did start getting a couple of questions, which we would be happy to answer after the pitches. Sorry, it's like, as you can tell, Nick and I are sitting together at our Shoreditch office. But right now, I think it's time for pitches. We're really excited to have amazing companies ready to pitch. And I'm going to ask our judges to just listen to the pitches with like an intention to give feedback that would be useful for our startups to make have a better chance of making it in the EdenBase competition. So with that, I'm inviting our first company to pitch. Basim is from Rafiq, and I think he is going to share his screen now.
Hi. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Greetings from Egypt. Let's start my pitch. We are living now in the middle of virtual assistant and artificial intelligence revolution. If we took a closer look, we find that Google has Google Assistant, Apple has Siri, and even some mobile vendors are building their own assistant applications like Samsung and HTC. Unfortunately, most of these apps are built mainly in English and poorly support Arabic, has limited features, and has robotic experience. On the other hand, 65% of Egyptians and 70% of Arabs do not speak English. This is nearly about 300 million people that can't utilize the functionality of virtual assistant to help them during their daily activities. I am Basim Wahid from Rafiq. Rafiq is a virtual assistant that can understand Arabic voice commands in the user's local dialect with localized experience. We have built Rafiq as a mobile application that can organize your life, order food, book an Uber, get product prices, and much more. Our total addressable market is smartphone users in the MENA region. However, we are now focused in smartphone users in Egypt and Saudi Arabia within the age range of 18 to 39 years old, which is nearly about 31 million users. And we aim to serve 50 million users in the next 3 years. We have two types of customers: individual users who are going to download the application and use it for free, and corporate platforms like taxi platforms, auto reservation platforms, etc., who will be interested to reach our individual users. And we are going to generate revenue through commissions, either through partnerships or affiliates, which will vary between 2 and 13% based on the service or the product which will be provided through Rafiq. Also premium listing based on the conversation between the user and Rafiq. And also we are trying to design a freemium package for our individual users. This is our traction so far. We have more than 700,000 downloads, mostly organic. We have more than 40,000 monthly active users. Those users have given Rafiq more than 20 million commands stored on our servers. We have built, using these data, we have built 3 machine learning engines in-house by our team. And we have supported 2 Arabic dialects, the Egyptian and the Saudi ones. And we have also been the top trending application on Google Play Store in 2019. And we have also made 13 integration in different levels of integrations. Our three machine learning engines are intent classifier to identify what the user is going to do, voice activation, which is equivalent to OK Google and Hey Siri. And we are, by the way, we are the only Arabic-based assistant that has this feature. And also gender classifier to know the gender of the user through his name, because Arabic is a gender-sensitive language. Of course, Rafiq has many competitors, but Rafiq is different, as it can understand Arabic voice commands in the user's local dialect with localized experience, and it can integrate with third-party services, and all of this is done with ease of access. We couldn't have done this without our amazing team, which have more than 25 years of combined experience in software engineering and e-commerce. And finally, Rafiq wants to capitalize on the many trends of the virtual assistant to help the Arabic-speaking people get things done easily by voice commands. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great first pitch. Enjoyed that. Merhaba, by the way. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Just a quick question for you. You mentioned that you built the engines as well. Okay, so you've got 2 engines that you've built yourself. Now, I think that's right. I understood that. Now, if that's right, that makes them probably the most valuable part of your intellectual property, because that's the barrier to others entering. Now, do you think that your markets are going to come from the commercializations of all those sectors that you pointed out in your second last slide, I think it is? Or do you think you might end up licensing your engine to some of the bigger players and become a provider of technology rather than a solution provider?
Actually, we think we can do both. Like, we are now trying to reach out for companies to sell them our model, like the business model, like selling them a premium listing to list their products inside Rafiq, what you are trying to do right now. And also we are thinking of like using this engine that we have right now, and probably use a SaaS model, like a chatbot or like IVR system to sell this as a service for corporates, to have this inside their products or services. And also we don't mind if we can, like, if we got an attention for a big tech or a giant tech company, and it will be a good exit strategy for us. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the plan then, possibly a partnership first, maybe then leading to an acquisition. Probably. Okay, that's pretty cool. So, I mean, I like the gap of the market. I'm going to ask her one more question, then hand it over to the others. But what's the next biggest problem or challenge you as a company need to overcome to help you achieve your goals?
Actually, revenue streams, because it's very tricky. So far, we have tried the first revenue stream, which is the commission. We didn't generate enough revenue so far, or barely generated revenue. So we have tried to have this premium listing after being reached out from one of an amazing companies that are selling offers. So we thought that we can test the premium listing with them. But yeah, the biggest challenge for us now is generating revenue. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so the biggest challenge is generating revenue. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Good to know. Okay, anyone else some feedback?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Eric. Basim, thank you very much for your presentation. I was equally quite curious to know about your customers. You mentioned that you had 40,000 monthly active customers. Presumably, based on what you've just said now, none of those are paying customers. Those are all the individual users on the freemium version.
Actually, we didn't design the freemium version yet. We have just like remove ads package, so it's not valuable, I guess. For that's what I think for the user. We have put some Google ads inside the application because we barely generated revenue. So we thought, let's try this type of revenue stream. And we said we have put like remove ads for the users, but actually no one purchased that because I think that the value is not that good. And also I think people didn't purchase because we are now just on Android. we are designing our iOS application, and I guess people with an iOS, at least here in the MENA region, maybe in Saudi Arabia, or the majority of them is an iOS holder or iOS user, and they have like a good power to pay, more than the Egyptian users. So we hope that this might change a little bit after we design or finalize our iOS version, but unfortunately none of them is paying right now. Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, then you mentioned the majority of your customer base uses iOS rather than Android.
No,
and if
we aim to achieve that, because we don't have an iOS version right now. We don't have it. Yeah.
If the majority of your customer base uses iOS, then why did you guys choose to build in Android?
Actually, because this is how Rafiq started in the first place. It started through a course from Google and TEAC here in Egypt. So I was the developer. I know Android. So we started Rafiq, and yeah, this is how it started. And we've actually hired an iOS developer in the team in 2020 in April. But unfortunately, for budget reasons and financial issues, we have hold the interaction with those developers because of the financial status of the company. But I guess this is the first hire we are going to make the iOS developer rejoin the team and the machine learning engineer as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you. I'll hand over.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was a great pitch. Thanks, Basim. And thank you to our panel of judges. Hold on. Now I'm going to invite our next presenter.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? I just wanted to say one more thing to Basim. I forgot to give you feedback. There's one word I would suggest for you, because you give so much enthusiasm and speed. I would just say shwaya shwaya.
Okay.
A little bit slower. A little bit slower. I had to really fight to keep up.
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
No
Thank
problem.
you very much.
Back to you.
Hello, everyone. I am Nesrin. I am here from Turkey. I am here today to talk about our solution, BIMCron. Our target market is the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, and its size is $12 trillion worldwide. Its share in economy is 17%. But the industry has some major problems. There is no real-time monitoring, project management, collaboration, etc. But the industry has costly penalties for terminations and delays. And statistics shows us wasted time is 35% and productivity rate is 47% in the industry. Let's continue what BIMCron offers. We are offering real-time monitoring, change management, resource management, real-time forecasting, and full collaboration between disciplines. With these abilities, 20% increase in profit and 35% increase in productivity are possible. Worldwide building information modeling software market size is $5 billion. The annual growth is 15%. Our business model is B2B and SaaS. We will use monthly subscription. These are our competitors. However, the solutions they are offering not covering the problems completely and effectively. Because of this, BIMCron has extreme potential. We are focusing on complete a new area as a building site management. We are targeting management functions, trace flows, updates, and changes in real time. Our core team is here. All of us are coming from different disciplines. Each of us has nearly 20 years experience in our area. Why BIMCron is a game changer? Firstly, BIM level 2 is mandatory in some countries in Europe, Asia, and North America. Our solution BIMCron offers BIM level 3 collaboration, which is accepted by authorities. Secondly, in construction project, parties are producing huge amounts of data on every step. BIMCron collects these data and uses it to create better projects and plans. Finally, BIMCron can integrate with all IoT services, especially on facility and asset management process. Critical IoT signals are collected and migrated to task with BIMCron. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you so much. That was 3 minutes perfectly. And now I would like to open it to our judges to ask questions. especially Carolina, Dennis, if you have any questions for BIM Chrome.
Yes, I wanted to ask, how are they trying to, like, what is the strategy in terms of growing the customers? Like, are you guys partnering up with like construction companies, or how you want to tackle that?
Sen cevap verir misin? Okay.
Yeah, we actually have Nesrin's, one of her co-founders, Sinan, online with us as well.
We are just, at the moment, we are seeking customers by our past experience. I worked on construction sites for over 20 years, and I have chance to work at huge projects. Maybe, you know, there's Marmaray project in Turkey. There are lots of small projects, and at the end, the construction industry in Turkey is dominated by a few large companies. And I have good connections with them, and I have, at the moment, I have reached many of them because I worked there or I worked in a partner of them. That's current sales strategy is the big Turkish companies. I must emphasize that Turkish market is a starting point for us. We are planning to go to the UK market, then to the USA and Canada, but at the moment our target is to start with the Turkish contractors. They are huge. They have good international projects all over the world. We want to make our application bug-free with lots of features, meeting the market demands using the Turkish contractors, but our final target will be the worldwide market. In the next steps, we will use project management offices, and the very final step is to have our website and people buy it like they buy Revit and Navisworks. They will just buy from our website. That's our final target.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
I have one question. So, because I'm actually working in a couple of proper tech projects in smart cities. So, are you trying to coordinate any solutions? Because what you have, if you plug in blockchain, can make it much more impactful, especially because you can get to property registration, a lot of other things. So, are you trying to incorporate any kind of blockchain certification for the data and as well in terms of databases?
Oh, well, at the moment we are using our own cloud solution. We are getting services from a local cloud company, which is a very big one. But at the end, what we are targeting is to manage the construction mostly, not the design, but the construction and property management, facility management. At the moment, we don't really work with outsiders yet, but our final target is to be able to communicate with all the services, even with the competitors. Like Autodesk is a competitor, and we want to work with them. There are some government servers that require data, that give and take data. We want to integrate with them because we have the data. We want to just work with all the available parties.
I understand. My question was more in terms of integration of databases, not necessarily on the conventional part, but with the assets and different things. But it might be something I can pass to Eric because I think it's a good idea. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you so much and thank you to Team BIMcore, Nesrin and Sinan, for responding to the questions. If you don't have any more questions now, I'm going to move on to our next picture. And remember, if you have any other questions about EdenBase, the competition, we will respond to all of those at the end. Thank you to our judges for their amazing questions. Now we have Chrissy from Starlix, who's going to pitch to our amazing panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Chrissy, the founder of Starlix. At Starlix, we link payment institutions, customers, compliance, and payment data to enable transparent and auditable cross-border payments. Let me tell you why this is important. Cross-border payments to low, medium-income countries are a vital source of income and GDP. Families depend on that money to survive, and remittances to low, medium-income countries are over $500 billion, according to the World Bank data. While the number of migrants are growing by 9% per year, exceeding 260 million, payment fees for remittances have increased to 10% by banks, which can be translated as an equivalent amount of over $40 billion. However, banking settlement services have declined due to high compliance costs and stringent regulations affecting this market. This has resulted into payment institutions who provide the best transaction fees to migrants to shut down because banks close their bank accounts, debank them, or block their payments, otherwise known as de-risking. These compliance costs, in turn, are passed on to payment institutions, costing a remittance company up to £60,000 per year. I told you what is the problem, and now let me tell you what we do. Starlix is a unique RegTech platform that links payments with compliance documentation and data to increase the trust between all parties, payment institutions and banks within a payment chain. Now let me tell you how we do that. We use underlying distributed ledger technology to tokenize the money sent between payment institutions that service different developing countries. The tokenized payment transactions are linked to all the necessary compliance information of the sender and the receiver of the payment. All payment institutions transacting on the Starlix platform comply with the latest regulations. This enables payment institutions to be trusted by financial institutions and bank with them. And it also allows financial institutions to check the details of the transactions easily and at minimal cost. I told you how we do, and let me tell you now with whom we have worked so far. We have been working alongside compliance services, lawyers, and also 30 UK payment institutions, that is our beachhead market, to test our MVP. And we aim to launch our product in Q4 2021, and within the next 2 years reach up to 1,200 UK payment institutions, and thereafter expand globally to include also tier 2 banks of emerging markets. I've explained to you why Starlix exists and what we do and how. And just to remind you that Starlix helps build trust between payment institutions and banks along the cross-border payment chain by linking compliance and payment data. I'm Chrissy from Starlix, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good. Enjoyed that one. Shall I take some? I mean, I love fintech. So
Yeah.
fintech. I'm a sad guy. I love RegTech. I love fintech. I really do. So thank you. Chrissy, awesome use case for crypto. Okay, terrific. And by the way, London is also doing a lot to develop its crypto community. I don't know if he's on, but James Bowater, who set up Crypto AM, is a very important part of that ecosystem. And so plugging into some of the expertise here will help solve that. But you raised the problem quite right? The compliance costs are too great for traditional financial services player to allow this. But the reason is because of the punitive impact if they get it wrong. If you were able to help just even improve that a tiny, tiny bit, that will change the world, right? It's very important for financial inclusion as well. But the challenge is to persuade those players to agree. In my experience, so really understand the problem. What would you say in your journey is the next big problem or connection you need to make to solve this problem? Because maybe that's how EdenBase could help, is helping solve that next challenge. Who do you need to speak with? Who do you need to meet with? Who needs to agree with you that the way of sharing your data is the way forward?
Yes, so it's interesting because, okay, so the Starlix platform, to move ahead, they need still payment accounts, and payment accounts are provided ultimately by a financial institution. So if you speak to traditional legacy style banks who have already existing processes in place, they're much less reluctant to provide payment accounts to payment institutions. Now, there are a few banks that still do so, but they of course have the high risk corridors, and they bank certain and facilitate certain corridors, meaning countries, in developing countries. They do so because they have updated their infrastructure. They include the AI, and they do literally real-time transaction monitoring.
Right.
But I think it's about changing the mentality and having more trust in these technologies. So if you go to, we are in discussions with a more up-to-date type of financial institution, and they understand the problem, and they are happy to collaborate and discuss this because they understand that these are big volumes. The problem is, how do you reduce the compliance costs so that actually that market is beneficial to them, or at least revenue generating, without them getting them in trouble, e.g. fines and so on. So the way forward is actually doing something that the legacy systems can support. So, for example, legacy systems now don't have the ability to combine data or pull data all together. They may send classic payment data under SWIFT, MTO 101. There are different messaging and standard fields, but they will not be linked with compliance data. Separately, they do onboard their clients, but still sometimes, okay, now we have Jumio and OnFido that do like digital type of onboarding, which
it's better. It's better than it was before.
But one has to recognize that the systems are in silos. So the compliance data sits in one system, the payment data sits in another. It's hard to pull this all together in one.
So your solution then is this way of packaging the compliance data with the payment, but in a way that the receiving or sending institution meets their compliance standards. Wow, awesome. Go for it. World changing if you can do it. But that's a real challenge that we need to work on to help solve. And I think our ecosystem might just be the right one to help work on this with you. So very interesting. Anyone else got any feedback, or how are we doing for time, Gigi?
We can have one more question for Chrissy.
Anyone else rather than just me? I have so many.
But I think also, Chrissy, you did a great job of like so eloquently communicating all the important pieces. It was just like very clear. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that point as well, Gigi. Chrissy, I think you did a great job of setting it out like that. I guess my question's around integrations and how much you guys do integrate with or plan to integrate with other back-end solutions, because as you mentioned, a lot of historical solutions don't typically integrate and work in the ways in which you would hope them to.
Yes. So Starlix will sit somewhere in the middle. It's not providing new infrastructure. It is about pulling data together. So for example, in the case of Starlix, we have the customers are payment institutions. They can be from small to medium, and they will have their own payment systems to like onboard their clients and then log their payments. However, they usually they don't have the facilities to do cross-border transaction settlements, and therefore they have to pass on their payment data or payment transaction information onto another bank through APIs or their different other type of. So that would be the same. It's just linking the compliance. So they have probably compliance systems. Well, some of them, you would be shocked, they still use email and CSV files. But if they would be using other type of systems, and that some of them do, like use Jumio and They obviously do their compliance checks, they're accredited. It's pooling everything and linking everything together. So they could still use what they have got. It's just having a platform in the middle that brings the parties together and then chaining the information so that one can follow up who is involved within the payment chain.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chrissy, for that great pitch. And like one of the other reasons why we wanted to host these sessions is because we know practicing this pitching, seeing other founders pitch, it's just like we all learn so much at the same time. And as you can see, like 3 minutes does sound like a short time, but if you're like very clear about the point that you're making, make sure you're highlighting the problem you're solving, how you're solving it, and why this is like different from any other solution that's out there. And Chrissy mentioned that they use emails, CSV files. That could be the existing solution, but like for some reason, what you're doing right now benefits your audience, just like highlighting those points. And I think in that sense, like it doesn't matter if you have 3 minutes, if you have 40 minutes, like you have those like big high level points. And I'm glad that like these companies are getting a chance to practice it with this audience and get questions and feedback from our panel of investors, experts. Like it's just like all great input. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to go to our last presenter of the day, Mert from 3Cell Innovation Solutions. And I just wanted to remind everyone again that like, this is just a practice. We will be connecting with all of you. It doesn't mean that you didn't get to pitch today. It doesn't mean you're never gonna get a chance again. In fact, we're planning, once our applications are closed, during our interview process, we do want to hear it from you because we do believe in the power of presenting in a setting like this. So make sure that you're connected with us and follow us and get in touch with us because we would love to hear your pitches. So without further ado, we have Mert from 3Cell Innovations, and you can share your screen. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. Let me share my screen quickly. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Mert. My background is telecommunication over 20 years. I'm in the UK last 5 years and then working for the operators and vendors. So basically what we are working last about 2 years is making some things about autonomously collecting, especially for the survey inspection. So let me go through a couple of information. So basically, we would like to combine the autonomous platform, 3D volumetric information, and obviously with the AI to make things a bit better for the end user. Obviously today, especially the telecommunication area, very, very important in terms of the base stations information and then the accuracy, because today everyone is saying that we have a 99% of the area that we are covering for the outdoor, and then there's the 95% area that we are covering for the indoor. Unfortunately, that's not entirely true. So we basically, because of these VR and telecommunication background, we would like to focus on the telecom area to collect the information by drone autonomously, and then create a 3D view, and then create also the volumetric information to make it more accurate for the databases. And obviously we have also different application for the different industry, but we would like to go for the telecom first. Otherwise with the drone and then different payload and like a different type of camera is allow us to go for the different industries. But like I said, the first mission is to telecommunication. I'm going to pass this information. Then how it works quickly. And basically, we would like to go for the autonomously drone because of we are not we entirely remove the human interface, and then just a click away, then the drone can go to the area. It could be base station, let's say in that case, and then the mission start. Lots of photos. And then the cloud-based engine is stitch all the pictures together, And then when we have everything in place, then customized report can be in place, can be emailed to the end users. So everything is basically planning to have end-to-end auto rules, and then therefore the accuracy is the main goal in this project. There are a couple of solutions for the different usage of the drone. Obviously, the wind, the weather conditions, all we are conscious, and then that's why we are going to use different type of drones for the different types of missions. Obviously, the battery life is very important, but we are going to focus the photogrammetry, the 3D, the volumetric information, and then the AI-based survey report. And obviously, so many applications in behind it, so that it could be all applicable. So we have a roadmap already. Hopefully, sometime this year, we will be ready with the MVP, and then the end of the year, hopefully, if everything is going good, then we will be ready. Obviously, the 5G is a very disruptive technology, and then the UK economy really looking for it. Expected revenues about 158 billion pounds. And then we are looking for only taking the share from the market about 4.8%. And then there is about 42,000 towers in the UK only. And obviously in the Europe, there are so many towers we are targeting. And then that's all. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for that presentation, Mert. Okay. Now I want to open it up to our panel for questions for our last presenter. And you said you're based in UK right now, right?
That's right. That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
I can jump in with one. Mert, thank you so much for the presentation. I guess quick question just on the problem statement. Maybe I didn't quite understand it, but what kind of really is the issue in terms of what you are solving? Is it the accuracy? Is it that there are not enough pilots available?
Yeah. The problem today is obviously one site survey takes a long hours and then so many times to complete, and the person completing the survey is obviously need to be trained for the health and security, and all the certification is actually quite expensive. And the biggest problem is the surveyors may not give you the real information because of these the coordinates inaccuracy, and then the height is a big problem today. So that's why lat long is wrong, not wrong, but let's say misleading. And also the height of the tower, height of the antenna is not correct. Therefore, the coverage for the area, could be a small town, city, or whole country, is give you the wrong information. That is the biggest problem, and that's why we would like to have asset digitization to give the operator that this is your inventory, is ready for the 5G or ready for the whichever technology they want to upgrade, but they don't know, and then they always go back to the database, but database is not updated obviously, so they can't decide. Then they need to send to someone to the field, which takes a long time and very, very costly, and still there's no guarantee that the collected information still may not be true. And that's why the accuracy is the main objective in here.
Okay, thank you. Two very quick things. One is there was a bit too much text for me for a presentation kind of to present. I'm sure that's fine if you leave it on someone's desk. The second one was in terms of market share, you mentioned you were aiming for less than 5%. I think it's always good to try and aim for taking a larger share of maybe a bit more of a niche market, especially if you're trying to really focus on getting the product right and knowing the customer very well. So that's just two takeaways for me.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much.
I'll jump in quickly. I've got a couple of quick questions. Is what you do, does it fall within in the UK, the CAA's certified status or the non-certified?
What we are doing is a certified one. Obviously,
is.
we need a commercial license that otherwise we can't allow the drone to fly around. That's why the data protection and then all these console let us work. Yeah,
Yeah.
it must be registered and then certified.
And then the technology that it was a bit quick, but I was trying to catch it. Is the 3D stitching technology yours, or you use others?
No, we are developing. Yes, that's the plan.
Oh, that's
we
interesting.
Develop end to end. Yeah, everything is cloud based. That's why AWS is actually brings a lot of opportunity. So then we would like to use this couple of different services combine, and then we will have an end to end. So that's why one action trigger others and others and others, and at the end everything will be a triggered point, and then at that end user.
So you see that that almost didn't come across in the feedback is that I would give you is that's a very powerful asset that you're building and a barrier to entry, especially if you can customize it with, say, telecoms inventory understanding in the AI. So 3D stitching with asset understanding is pretty powerful in the industry. That makes you a lot more interesting as a company, rather than people just stitching together other people's technology to solve a problem for the telecoms industry. And then, of course, you apply to others. So, okay, that's interesting. If that's our feedback, somehow getting that into the pitch that says there's a lot of people in the drone world, but our secret power is we're building our own amazing 3D stitching technology with this, which means that for every industry we will build, world leading. So it was somewhere in the middle there, but I had to really fight to get it. So I would put it up front a little bit more.
I will make it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Right, I think that's actually a great feedback for everyone presenting, like both, like from both of you, both H and Eric. One, we are presenting on this online setting, and H, if you think about it, he's actually on your computer, but not really.
Yeah.
So, and especially like, unfortunately for you, Matt, you were like at the end of this like great panel and like 3 presentations before you. So this is also something for every founder to be mindful of, especially if you're doing like this kind of setting, like back-to-back pitches. It's people are going to get distracted. So if your energy is high, and if you are just like making sure you use different tones and you share excitement, it does come through. Even though this is a computer screen, it does come through. And especially if you have more visual slides, that makes a huge difference. And to Hayes' point, if there's too much text on slides, then we all tend to read it, but we want people to listen to us. So that's why it's also not to have too many texts on the slide, just have anything that says exactly what you're saying, to make sure that we're processing the same information twice and not two separate types of information. So I would say, I mean, yes, Matt, I'm sorry this happened as if it's like feedback to you, but I think it's very important for everyone.
Thank you very much.
For everyone. Can I just add quickly, and the real power of doing things like this is that the network is already starting to work. So I've just had a message from somebody who's watching. Actually, I'll say his name, give him a shout out. It's James Bowater from City AN, who sent me a connection who might be really good for you, Mert. So thank you, James. And yeah, the power of the EdenBase network already, community and ecosystem already active.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mert, for that.
Thank you.
And I would say that actually ends the pitch part of our session.
More! We want more!
Do you want more? We do have more if you want more. We do have...
we can't keep our judges because that's the
exactly.
problem.
Well, we do have. I mean, as I mentioned to like some of the other people, we had like dozens of applications to pitch at this event, and I had a few people in the chat who were ready to pitch. And I would like to share this to all of you again. Feel free to connect with us directly. We want to hear you pitch at other events like these ones, and it's great to hear that you're interested in pitching at these things. And today we're on Clubhouse, so you can come and pitch to us on our during our Clubhouse sessions too. We had someone pitch us earlier today.
That's great.
So we're on all social media. Make sure you get connected with us and don't miss out anything. We want to thank our judges a lot for their time and for their valuable feedback. Actually, in our attendees, we had some of our other judges. We had James Bowater, we had Zayed Al Nahayan in our watching these too. So just because they weren't here on the panel doesn't mean our other judges are not watching your every move. So this is like a notice to all the founders out there. We're always watching and always judging and seeing if this could be something we can invest in and welcome to our community. I would like to ask our judges if they would like to add anything before we move into more of like a Q&A on EdenBase.
Shall we quickly run through them just to give them a chance for feedback? Gijs, thank you for joining. Any final words?
Yeah, I would just agree with what Gigi is saying, is keep it very clear and concise, and just remember that you might be at the end of a long block of pitches, but you just got to try and get people's engagement and interest.
Thank you. Carolina, are you inspired?
Yeah, very. I'm trying. Love that. No, it was great. I liked a lot of format as well, like the pitches, the panel, the team, like it was great. Like, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Dinesh, from you, any more?
I would just suggest probably more for the EdenBase. One of the things I've been doing a lot of these panels all over the world. And one of the, and of course, Eric, you've been doing a lot more. So one of the things I suggest that helps a lot both ways is creating a template that everyone has to follow, because that helps a lot, both everyone listening to this, but it helps as well you, because you are, of course, the accelerator of the ecosystem. Yeah. So I think this helps as well the startups, because one of the things I've been finding is that every startup has different, normally everyone has different advice. And actually become as well, they are doing different velocities. Some of them are more advanced, others less. So if you have like an obligatory process, it helps the startups, but it helps everyone, both us listing and both you guys as well. So it's one of from my experience as well in a lot of these things.
Okay, thank you. My final question will be to Daniel, really, because I mean, I'll be really honest and say that all of this and EdenBase would not be here without your energy and drive. If we are successful, what will happen?
When?
I just any time, right? Well, you pick your time.
Look,
why are you doing this? What do you want to happen?
I guess I want to make a difference now. I've spent a lot of time building lots of companies. They've been cool. I've helped a lot of people. But this is a time in my life that I've learned a lot over my life. And I really want to give it back to the next set that can create something. And, I was really interested. I didn't want to ask the pitches anything because I wanted to stay back and allow it to the judges. But I've learned things on this. Some really interesting points. Just on the last one, Dinesh's was really interesting. And it sort of goes back to the difference between money, power, and knowledge. And money and power are non-fungible, as it were. They're finite. You can amass power, you can amass money. And if I have more, you have less on the whole. Knowledge is the opposite. If I give you knowledge, we both have it. And more importantly, we can both use it, which means it's not just double, it's triple or quadruple. And there are people here that are listening, hopefully, and some of the feedback that they had, that you've given to the pitches that I wish I had heard when I was pitching my first companies, will mean they'll do a better job. Everyone will do a better job. And that's the point of it. We're building a community to create the future. And that's really everything we're here. And everybody that joins us and everybody that wants to be part of it should be part of it. Everything I've done for the last few years is collaborative, and that's really what this is about. And we want to start EdenBase in London. We have visions to go into all of the world and to really inspire and allow the next generation to do the greatest things they can at this really important time in humanity. And if we listen to some of the people on, like Carolina, who is doing such important work in the future, we want to be there to make sure the world's a better place when we leave it.
Yeah, no pressure, Carolina. That's so good. Thank you, Daniel. Back to you, Gigi.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much to our panel. We actually got a bunch of questions from our audience, and some of them were like specific to specific people in the panel, and we're going to share those questions with you later. And if you're open to, we can actually like connect you with those people too. And I'm going to thank our panelists for joining us today. We're going to transition to the EdenBase Q&A section. We'd love if you could stay, but completely understand if you have to go. And we would love if you can unmute yourselves and like say bye to everyone if you want to. Oh, oops. I think our time's up in this room.
Oh, in the room. That's funny. Quickly, panel, unmute yourselves and say goodbye.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here, and congratulations. It's a great initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. As we are dealing with our technical difficulties, I mean, it's 4:30, so sunset.
It's the AI. It's observing you guys were stationary, and it said, okay, energy saving down.
Exactly. So now, as I mentioned, we do have some very specific questions which we will respond to after this, but I would like to, Nikki, talk about the more general questions about EdenBase.
Great.
So we have a couple of questions.
And again.
We have a couple of questions regarding our ecosystem. So the first is EdenBase only UK focused?
Daniel.
Sorry, can you just say that again? My screen went, I lost the sound.
Third time lucky. Is EdenBase only UK focused?
It's not UK focused. We're a global. Sorry, I thought it was on mute. We're a global organisation, but our ecosystem is starting in the UK. So people that we work with, we need them to have a presence in the UK. Whether they, not all of them, but some of them. We believe in ecosystems as a core part of what we're doing, but we do follow frontier technologies ourselves. So we see ourselves going through the same evolving that the people we work with go through. So we're initially very focused on physical, we'll become a hybrid workspace, and then a virtualized hybrid workspace. So, but at the moment, global with a UK focus.
Yeah.
And then next, will the bootcamp be physical or virtual?
I mean,
Eric?
I mean, yes. The answer is yes. We really want it to be physical. But the timing, of course, is challenging with COVID, and that's the only restrictor. So we may end up pioneering a hybrid of the two. Whatever it is, we want to get to the end of this and make the investments. We're actually looking into that at the moment, but we really would like it to be physical because there's this concept of orchestrating serendipity. Already on this call, you've had some of our judges and advisors feed in solutions that, because they've heard it. These are amplified when you're in person, so we really do want them to be in person as well, but we'll come back to you on that, the final decision.
Okay, and then what is your opinion about the future startup growth potential of the UK despite Brexit? And if you believe growth potential is still there, in which areas? Well,
as you've asked the Brexit word, then I'm going to take that one. Probably the B word. Okay, so there has been a rumor of the potential demise of the UK because of Brexit, and I'll put my hands up to say that I wasn't particularly happy when Brexit happened, because I was very concerned it was going to negatively impact the UK. But now that it has happened and there is some certainty over the way forward, you can be absolutely sure that my former colleagues in government are feverishly working on the most fantastic set of policies to help optimize the UK as a destination of choice for innovation, for tech, for growth. When you think about it, that was part of the point of having something like Brexit take place. Now, we're really lucky, the UK, because we have already got an amazing head of steam and a huge tech industry, which has grown tremendously over the last 10 years. So my belief now is that it will be better than ever. And in some ways, perhaps even more enabled with Brexit because of the ability to to make some policies ourselves which can positively favor the tech sector.
Can I add a little bit to that on stats? So the referendum was in 2016, as we know. So Britain was in effect going to leave, and we left officially on January 2020. Since 2016, tech investment into London has tripled, making it, I think, the fourth now in the world. So I think London is very, very open for business. We will remain open for business. Whether we're inside Europe or outside, London and the UK are very global. And I think this is one of the, I've operated in lots of countries around the world. I still think the UK is one of the best places for business. And, you know, I will do everything, as will Eric and our team, to help the UK deliver on what it can do.
So that's it for the questions for now. So
awesome, thank you, Nikki. Gigi, are we set for today? Are we done?
Yes, sorry, it's in this like tech side of this.
Oh yeah, you have to do one.
It takes a second, but we managed to do it. Thank you everyone for your understanding and patience. Like, as you can see, Gigi and Nikki and I are not like the technical people. We're just figuring it out because of COVID. And this is the end of our session. Daniel, are you raising your hand or high-fiving us?
No, I'm just saying I want something when you finish. So before,
okay.
Don't hang up.
Okay. So we'd like to thank all of the participants, everyone who pitched, and our panelists for their time. And yes, Daniel, to you.
I just wanted to end by thanking Gigi and Nikki particularly for making this very smooth, very easy. And this is our first one. And it was an incredibly enjoyable experience. So thank you too.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And James Bowater is with us, raised his hand. He's one of our...
Hello.
Hi, great to see you or hear you.
Hang on a minute. Where's my video?
Is Luna with you?
She's lying in her bed at the moment.
Fair enough, fair enough. Oh, thank you for joining us.
No, that's fine. It's actually great because I've been able to manage to chop up some salad, have my lunch, multitask, try and organize the Crypto AM DeFi and Digital Inclusion Summit and all that stuff. So that's all cracking on. No, I did actually ask a question, Nikki. I don't know if you saw, but it was really, is it particularly fair where English isn't the native language to make them pitch in English when potentially with our AI expertise there should be some sort of live translate for subtitles at the bottom?
Yes, actually, yes, we had that question saved to be answered later because I think Zoom might have something like that, but all of these companies right now, since they're already going out,
you can find somebody to pitch.
No. It's like they are willing to pitch in English because they do like to practice because they are trying to go out of their.
No, I understand, but when it comes to the actual flow, I mean, for example, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I watch something in a foreign language, I always choose the foreign language rather than the dubbed version because you get a better sense of tone and cadence and all the rest of it. And then obviously, you know, if the translation is good, you can read it as you go. And then they maybe not so nervous and things don't get so lost in translation. Like, you know, Daniel would always get lost in translation.
That would be very interesting.
You see, doesn't that
answer your face, mister?
Doesn't that answer your point?
Thank you so much for that. I'm sorry to cut you guys off, but it's just like we're up with our time, and I want to be respectful of the time of our audiences. And but thank you, James. Like, we have taken note of that because that's like something we should really consider because like you are right. People do pitch better in their
And
native
also,
language.
thank you for offering to make that connection for one of the pitches already.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Fun enough, I think you might have even met him some point in time, because I think when he started Drone Major, he was actually at level 39, I think.
Oh, excellent. Even better.
I think.
So thank you for that. Gigi, wrap us up.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone for your times, for your flexibility, for sharing your energies through the screens, despite everything that's happening. We are still excited about days to come where we're all in the same physical location and you can pitch on the stage and we can all get to meet in person and have our boot camps and sessions. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panel, and make sure you apply to the EdenBase competition and EdenBase out. I mean, this is just from our logo. No, no deeper meaning.
Oh, sorry, you gotta get 2 fingers, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay, now I